DW Africa Link.
Critics say Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni is tightening his grip on power. They point to a weakening opposition and growing efforts to draw opposition figures into the ruling National Resistance Movement, NRM. So is this the strength of the ruling party or the failure of a divided opposition? That's what's coming up. I am Eddy Micah Jr., and you are welcome to Africa Link, the podcast connecting you to the stories that matter.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
Let's put things into context here. Uganda's ruling National Resistance Movement, NRM, kept its dominant majority, and President Yoweri Museveni secured a seventh term. But independents won more than 60 seats, making them a key political force. Now, against that backdrop, Museveni recently hosted a week-long induction and ideological training for newly elected NRM MPs, NRM-leaning independents, and senior party leaders at the National Leadership Institute, Nali Changwanzi. The retreat is one of the most influential political gatherings in Uganda, especially after general elections. Critics now say the Changwanzi retreat is about more than training MPs, arguing it's a way for the ruling party to draw in independents and opposition-leaning figures as the opposition remains fragmented. Let's get more from Edith Sempala, former ambassador and a political activist in Uganda. I also have DW's Frank Yiga, our correspondent in Kampala, Uganda. Hello, both of you. Welcome to Africa Link. Edith, you've been involved in politics for a while. Can you start by telling us about Uganda's multi-party democracy? How strong or weak is it?
Thank you very much, Eddy. The multi-party politics space in Uganda is very, very limited. So operations of political parties that are opposed to the NRM hardly have freedom and to associate, freedom to express themselves. Yes, people talk, but when it comes to organization, there is very, very little space. So in that sense, the political party, the multi-party democracy is functioning, but it is not efficient because of lack of opportunities to operate.
What exactly do you mean when you say lack of opportunities to operate?
First and foremost, when it is not election time, in order to meet supporters, you need to ask for permission from the police. Actually, that is not what the law states. But if you don't, you are disrupted. So meetings of political parties are often disrupted. Therefore, the opportunity to organize, to mobilize, to recruit becomes limited. You may also know that the political environment in Uganda is heavily monetized. That makes it very difficult for political parties to organize because of lack of financial resources. Whereas the ruling party, it is believed that they use national resources for their own activities. And also, it is easy for them because in Uganda, for instance, if businesses, they are very shy to support political parties in opposition, because if they do, they will suffer the consequences. So you find, therefore, that in terms of resources, in terms of ability to organize or to be able to go out and mobilize and organize and recruit, the space is very limited. Whereas it is okay for the NRM, they just organize, they mobilize, the national institutions are taken to be theirs. So that is what I'm talking about.
Okay. Is it just also a case that the opposition is so fragmented and not strong enough? And as I do understand, some of the opposition try to join the NRM. That's the problem, isn't it?
The way I look at it is that, when you have been under oppression and repression, people learn to survive. And one way to survive is either to join the ruling party or to keep quiet or to try and run away. Although history shows that the more you run away, the more you become a victim. So I think that political parties that have decided to join, it is because they didn't have very strong ideology, very strong reasons why they oppose. Because if you believe in something, you believe in it and you go after it. But if you are vague, if you are weak in yourself and you feel like you need to survive, and the only way you can survive is to join the other party, then you join. And we see that very often here in Uganda, but in other places as well. But there are also political parties with very strong convictions, political parties that are values driven, that know that unless the political culture in Uganda, a culture that will help or will enable a level playing ground for politics is in place, then we all are doomed.
Thank you very much, Edith, for that submission. I'm going to come to you, Frank, because we're partly talking about this due to recent events or developments in Uganda. The National Resistance Movement, we've been talking about the NRM, that's the ruling party, held a retreat recently. What were the key takeaways that has resulted in the discussion of very weak opposition, if at all?
Okay, so responding to you, Eddy, we have to look into the agenda of this NRM leaders retreat. It looked at ideological orientation, economic transformation. There was also governance for the next 5 years, 2026 to 2031 term. President Museveni outlined priorities to grow Uganda's economy tenfold, of course, and other points that they raised. And they made it open to whoever wants to attend. We saw Norbert Mao, much as he's a minister in the NRM government and also opposition at the same time. He's a party president. He still represents the opposition. We saw him, calling upon his fellow opposition MPs or politicians to come and join the NRM because there's a lot to discuss during this retreat that is developmental for the country. And we are yet to really find out whether there are other opposition MPs that really attended this retreat. But what we know, there was over 40 independent MPs that came in. Of course, it's also a sign to show the strength of the NRM and perhaps the weakness of the opposition to some extent. I mean, when they call you to come and sit on the round table, talk, discuss issues of national importance, perhaps we would have seen a few come in to join, but none came apart from Norbert Mao. Well, perhaps they still have their principles as outlined in their respective political parties, why they shouldn't join the NRM to have discussions in the NRM retreat. But of course, we saw Norbert Mao saying that joining the NRM retreat does not mean that you're going to cross over to the NRM.
Exactly. So What then is the problem? Is it the fact that there's been a number of defections and political realignments? That's why people are eagle-eyed watching what's going on. How massive are the defections and political realignments that is causing a stir?
Well, the defections are not massive. I should say they're not massive. It's just a few individuals we've seen, jumping from their respective political parties into the NRM party. But the big fish haven't crossed yet. They're still put, and others are incarcerated. Many of them are behind bars. Others have fled the country. So we've not seen them, cross over to NRM, to sit on the round table and talk issues. No, they still hold on to their principles of the parties and values for which they stand as opposition political parties, because they believe that the NRM party itself or the government has gone astray. So there's no way they could come and sit on the round table with them.
How are citizens interpreting the few defections, in your words, and political realignments? Are they sensing some sort of collapse within the opposition, or is it being seen as the ruling party just doing all it can to cement its power or its grip on power?
Okay, and now Eddy, taking you a little back, following or if you can remember, way back in 2016, President Yoweri Museveni clearly said that there won't be any opposition in the next 5 years. But of course, in the 5 years elapsed, but I believe he meant in the future. So it is what we're somehow seeing, that his statement is coming into realization. Weak opposition, collapse of political parties, and also following his re-election in January, Uganda's president also vowed to perish or destroy the opposition, specifically targeting the National Unity Platform led by Bobi Wine. Yes, so we've seen him move by that. And we're seeing political parties crumbling slowly. And it's going to be really so visible with the absence of the solid opposition political leader, Bobi Wine, Robert Kyagulanyi, who fled the country, with Kizza Besigye incarcerated, Bobi Wine out of the country, others in jail. The opposition is going to crumble further. And we've also seen political parties, split into small factions. We had a strong opposition party, Forum for Democratic Change. It crumbled, split, and then had a splinter-away party, PFF. And then we had other suspicious political parties that we believe had a government hand in them, in their creation, that acted on behalf of the government to confuse the opposition. So all those are games played. President Museveni is a very smart politician. He says, when you move high, he'll operate from low and then put you to order. So he's played his cards so well. First of all, you have to put into consideration the factors that he holds. He has the money, he has the military, he has all the resources to his disposal. So there's no way one can fail to put things to order or to the way he wants them to be.
Thank you very much, Frank, for those strong words. And that's exactly the problem, isn't it, Edith? If it's being seen as government coercion, as you seemed to suggest earlier, governments pressuring the opposition to weaken them so they can just tighten the grip on power. That is exactly the problem, isn't it, Edith?
Absolutely, Eddy. Opposition is always a result of oppression. Whenever there is oppression, there is more resistance. The history of NRM itself demonstrates that. So I do not think personally that NRM is strong, because if I look at the Egypt or Northern Africa countries, they looked very strong. Mubarak had just had over 90% election victory. Yet when the Arab Spring came, it just swept him away. Why did that happen? So therefore, personally, I believe that the only tangible strength that is sustainable is the strength that comes from a foundation of democracy, which, as I think all observers of Uganda can attest to, is a big challenge. It gets worse and worse. I mean, if you are really strong, Eddy, you would not need to coerce people. The military would not be necessary. Buying people would not be necessary. Using money to buy people. These are not people who voluntarily join because you are doing so well, you are governing well, you are governing well, and therefore they want to join you. They want to join you, one, because they are being coerced. Secondly, because they want to survive. They need money. But once things change, those people would not actually be there because they did not join with their hearts. They joined to survive.
Very interesting point you raised there. Pure disclaimer, Edith, you are a former ambassador. You used to work with the NRM government. You're basically appointed by the NRM government. And now, obviously, you're being quite critical of the government. What do you think has changed from the time you were in till now?
Eddy, I wasn't just appointed, actually. I am a child of the struggle of NRM. You know, because the situation was so bad, all of us, at that time I was in the diaspora. I was in Sweden. I joined and we worked very hard from different positions. And eventually I was appointed. I didn't apply for it. I was appointed ambassador. There were clear ideas. There were clear ways. There was a promise of what would happen when NRM comes to power. And that is very well expressed in the 10-point program of NRM that the NRA came with from the bush. Now, all those points, if you go one by one, you find that the government has departed from those ideas. So personally, as somebody who joined not to benefit, not to gain, but to make a contribution to the future of the country, I thought that there is no way I could, what I used to criticize when I was representing NRM, I see it happening. There is no way, therefore, I can contradict my conscience. And that is why, basically, I am critical now. It doesn't mean that I don't see the positives that NRM achieves or that the positives that are achieved, but my criticism stems from the fact that unless we build a strong foundation for governance, for democracy, there is no way we can sustainably move forward. And I think also history has demonstrated that unless there is a strong foundation, whatever you build, whether it is roads, in case they are not even eaten up, whether it is social services, whatever you build without a strong foundation of good governance, you are building in vain, because that is going to collapse, just like a building. A building can be very beautiful, but unless it has a good foundation, it is a matter of time. It would collapse.
Right. Thank you very much, Edith. As we start wrapping this up, Frank, coming to you, the elephant in the room is Bobby Wine. And you mentioned him earlier in your submission. What's going on from his camp? I mean, what are you hearing on the ground about his role at the moment? Talking about the opposition, he's been one of the key strong oppositions in the country, but he's been less visible and the opposition is struggling internally. What's going on? How are Ugandans interpreting his absence?
Well, he was haunted and hunted, and that's why he fled the country. And the people are sad that he's not present in Uganda today, because he was the symbol of the opposition. He was the trademark of the opposition. He was the voice of the opposition. I mean, everyone looked up to him to deliver the message. He was the representative of so many Ugandans. And for now, it's like there's no leader. Well, first of all, the MPs, whether the politicians themselves, are still nursing wounds for being cheated, like they claim in the recent elections, because most of them didn't come back. So they're nursing wounds, and we're seeing petitions in court for those who claim that there was voter rigging. So you can see it's a vacuum. We miss him. We only hear his voice once in a while, as his supporters say, because he says that now his duties have now been shifted to the international community. He's garnering support within that community, so at least they try hard to check the government and perhaps make it fall in one or the other, because that's the target. So he's fighting his wars from afar, not from within. So the Ugandans are missing him, and they believe no one is going to fit in his shoes for now. The one who would, Kizza Besigye, is behind bars. And for now, when they look around, they see no one. As of now, it is NRM playing both sides of the football pitch, and they're at the same time the referee of the game.
Right. I like that analogy that you used. And if you follow football, well, that is a disaster. You have the final words, Edith, to wrap this up. What do you see as the way forward for Uganda, for the country to be truly multi-party democratic, and basically for democracy to thrive in Uganda? What needs to happen now?
Eddy, it is a struggle. Personally, I don't even see a multi-party democracy as such as a struggle. The same kind of struggle that preceded the coming into power of NRM. That is the only way. You cannot have democracy that is guarded by guns, democracy that is monetized. You cannot have runaway corruption. So really, democracy is sickly in Uganda. And the only way it can be revived is continued struggle. I would want to give hope to Ugandans and to our friends in the diaspora and the international community. We have seen historically countries going through this kind of turmoil and able to come out. Even before, during the struggle of NRM, no one knew that it would take such a short time. But because of the oppression of the regimes then, it became possible.
We will definitely be keeping tabs on developments in Uganda, and as always, update our listeners. But I have really enjoyed this discussion and the different analogies or terminologies that were used from the both of you. Very strong points there. Edith Sempala, former ambassador and political activist in Uganda, thank you very much. Also, DW's Frank Yiga, our correspondent in Kampala, Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddy.
Thank you, Eddy. God bless you.
Africa is changing. Don't get left behind. Tune in to Africa Link.
With defections rising and political lines blurring, Uganda's opposition faces an uphill battle. The question remains, will the country's multi-party democracy hold, or will the ruling party's grip only tighten? Share your thoughts with us on Facebook at DW Africa. Listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And subscribe to our DW Africa YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. This show was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabe. And I am Eddy Micah Jr. Thanks for listening.
DW. Made for Mind.